Even though the temperature in the room was rather high, the champagne glass I was holding felt as cold as ice. As I stood outside, the city sparkled, seemingly unconcerned by the deep agony that was seeping through my chest. Dan and I had become more distant from one another ever after Sarah had passed away. My efforts to bridge the gap, which were maybe sloppy and overly anchored in giving rather than emoting, appeared to only deepen it. Grief turned into anger on his side, and my attempts to bridge the gap seemed to only increase it. Stoicism, in his view, was synonymous with indifference. Totally spent, I believe that you are happy. As it was, she broke down into yet another tearful sob. A discovery was made by me. This evening, after all that has happened, the antique memento box that Dad brought from your home was where I discovered it. The collection of letters. The letters you sent. That is to him. Furthermore, there are bank statements. Those that are older, I found it at the bottom of the box. He never bothers to check inside it. There were letters that I had written over the year that followed Sarah's death. Letters that were written in an attempt to explain things to him or to get in touch with him. Letters that were returned unread and stamped "Return to Sender" in his furious teenage graffiti. The letters that I believed he had thrown away. This is a letter ... from the bursar of the school. For your attention alone, I would want to express my gratitude for the anonymous contribution of the whole scholarship which was made the week after he registered. Additionally, the bank records are evidence of the unrelenting and emotionally draining overtime that I had worked throughout his last years of high school. Does he believe that it was a scholarship for merit or the money that belonged to his mother? These were the years that he had accused me of leaving him in order to pursue my profession while he was grieving alone, as if they were dissolving the walls of the penthouse. A haze formed over the bright metropolis below. My justified indignation, which I had been nursing for years, erupted, then exploded out of my body, and it was replaced by an overwhelming and exhausted melancholy. It wasn't malice on his part. Rather, it was the scar tissue that had formed over a wound that I was unable to repair because he would unallow me get close to it. The abrupt and devastating exoneration brought together decades of baffled sorrow, the searing burn of rejection, and the crushing weight of failed parenthood. As soon as the sun rises, while you are in the same room, just be kind. In spite of the fact that it was founded on an error, he bears a great deal of grief. I felt as if I was ripping shrapnel out of my own heart as I spoke it. He loved his mother with all his heart. Having to say goodbye to her was a crushing blow to him. The same goes for me. It just broke with a fresh approach. And the flimsy bridge that Elise had constructed with her sorrowful call. When you called, you made the proper decision. This toxin needs oxygen in order to grow. However, not tonight. For tonight, let him have it. Because everything. All of the things that he was unaware of. Tomorrow, I will give you a call. After that, he speaks about going fishing when he was a kid, and how you taught him how to ride a bike before everything went dark. Even though they were now worthless, the financial data continued to shine on the screen, but rather towards the far corner of the room where my son and his new wife were sleeping. It was going to be a difficult journey ahead, one that would be paved with Dan's humiliation and the ruins of his misunderstanding. The act of forgiving one another would not be simple for any of us. For the first time in years, however, I saw a glimmer of optimism beginning to appear on the horizon. It was not the dazzling, naive hope of reunion. Rather, it was the dull, persistent light of potential. After being banged shut for such a long time, the door was suddenly somewhat ajar, and on the other side, owing to the tears of a bride and the letters that were concealed, there was a possibility, although a delicate one, to be seen for the first time. The sacrifice that had been quiet had spoken. We waited for the boy to pay attention. When seen from the outside, the lights of the city seemed to be less like apathy and more like faraway stars, which are points of light in a huge and complicated cosmos. It was not an absence of pain. None of the years that were lost could be restored. By this point, however, the oppressive burden of being misunderstood and of carrying the responsibility for a crime that I had not committed had been alleviated. In the peaceful aftermath of her wedding, a bride who was crying made the discovery of the truth, which was a gift that was both terrible and important. He also talks about how you taught him to love fishing. That individual is still present. The letters. They are evidence that you have never once stopped loving him. Give him the clearest possible recollection of the time he married you. This, at least, is a genuine and positive thing. All of these things swirled and collided violently with this exoneration. When this storm arrives, you should be his safe refuge. Assist him in confronting it. Please assist him in comprehending that the parent whom he believed had abandoned him was, in fact, sacrificing himself in order to provide him with wings. I took a breath. It was unsteady. And don't forget to inform him that his father is waiting for him, not for the sake of apologizing, for him specifically. When he is prepared to do so, he had not hated me. Rather, he had loathed a phantom, a caricature constructed from words that were not read and sacrifices that were not witnessed. Don discovered the letters that were already returned many years ago. He never bothered to open them. Simply put, he presumed that these were merely excuses, words that are empty. At long last, after spending years in the emotional desert, validation. Currently, he is sound sleeping, pondering the fact that this was an ideal day, and the foundation was made of sand, something that I just cannot hide from him. The expression on his face, however, when he understands what he has done, what we have done, and what he has done. Out of exhaustion, she began to wander off. He constructed this whole tale in his imagination, this wall, out of the hurt and confusion that he had experienced. Moreover, I had faith in him. We were able to hold you at bay. I did not give any doubts. The fullness of her voice was broken. Today, we tied the knot, and the basis of our marriage was constructed on a lie that I assisted him in constructing. At the engagement party, I looked into your eyes and saw the pain that you were experiencing. I then judged you. I am very appalled and sad. However, I was in the process of putting away his cufflinks. You decided to go to work, he informed me. That when his mother passed away, you were never again present, namely, that you did not care enough to attend his graduation or his recitals, and that you did not care enough to be invited today. An additional sob ripped through her gut. Nevertheless, these letters, Mr. Henderson, they are begging for your help. I was pleading with him to communicate and to comprehend. All of these statements, as well as the deposits, are identical to the payments that he made for the tuition at the prestigious music institution that he was accepted into during his senior year. This was the one that he was so pleased to have entered. The individual whom he believed his trust money would protect. I saw his withdrawal as a kind of rejection that I was unable to fathom, because of the exorbitant tuition. Only Sarah's small life insurance policy would cover the amount. He had previously designated a portion of his education money, so I did the only thing I knew how to do, which was to have it function. Volunteered for every additional shift, every consulting assignment, and every project that was hard on my spirit. It's required to the fact that the last payment was required. I was unable to attend his final high school show since I was working through pneumonia. It was impossible for him to forgive me for being absent. My physical absence was misunderstood by him as an emotional abandonment, and he was never aware of the cruel calculation of love that was behind it. He had sold my time in order to purchase his desired outcome. I may say that the wedding was the perfect punctuation point. It was today when my one and only son, Daniel, tied the knot with Elise. I felt a tightening in my chest. In what way would she call? Many hours after the day of her wedding, my gut was filled with dread that was icy and piercing. Something had taken place, right? Was it a mistake? At the same time, I had spent it watching financial statistics flash on a screen. It's the quiet of my penthouse providing a striking contrast to the celebration that I was aware was taking place a great distance away. Her words were stifled by tears, and her voice was like broken glass. My voice was out of tune and sounded rusty. What is the matter? Does Daniel have? Her tears were searing. I know. I am really sorry. Please accept my sincere and unforgivable apologies for phoning so late. But I had no choice. There is no invitation. There is no explanation. Simply put, the cruel and finality of being excluded. 30 years of strained quiet had brought us to this point. My phone began to light up as midnight drew closer and closer to the early hours of the morning. Elise meaning Dan's, who is Mr. Henderson. It is your name is Elise. Elise. It's true that he's sleeping. Her raspy breathing was the only thing that could be heard in the elongated quiet. The fear became more pervasive, and something more substantial. Elise, what did you find? Yes, it was. It was concealed by a panel that was unfastened at the bottom. My body went into a coma. Instantaneously, I understood what she was trying to say. He told me. With a gasp, Elise struggled to regain her composure. The recollection crashed into my being. While he is waving the admission letter to the famous Vandermeer Conservatory, Don, who is 17 years old, his eyes light up. And there's more, Elise said, her voice shaking with a new sort of fear. And there's an even greater amount. Oh, name given. I had not even want to express appreciation. It was his opportunity. Elise said, her voice dripping with tears. Now, the quiet that I was experiencing was not stoicism. It was the utter silence that followed an earthquake at that moment. I was finally able to say Elise, with a thick voice of my own. You weren't to know, however, she shouted out. But I should have. When he ought to have. When I thought about my son waking up to this devastating reality on the first day of his marriage, it was terrible to imagine. Listen to me, Elise, I replied, attempting to maintain a quiet tone in my voice. But you, I said, tomorrow, as I softly interrupted. Tell him the next day. Silently, Elise shed tears. If you are Mr. Henderson, he loves you, to a great extent. The words struck me with a power that was tangible. As she hushed, what am I supposed to do, Elise? Try to be his wife. Thank you. She exhaled at long last. The dial tone made a humming sound.
Us.
After taking care, I delicately positioned the phone on the icy glass table. I made my way to the window and looked out, not at the city above me,